General Counsel, is there a quorum?
Madam Chair, you do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Full house.
Excellent. Good morning. I'm calling to order the August 2022 meeting of the IHCDA Board of Directors. I'm Ann Valentine, designee for Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch. We are meeting pursuant to this board's policy for participation by members of the IHCDA Board of Directors in board meetings by simultaneous electronic communication. This means that only 3 members must be physically present at the site of the meeting, and the remaining members may call in. There will be an audio feed for the general public so that members of the public can listen to the meeting, and there will be a link to a video recording posted on IHCDA's website next month. At the time the motions are being made, each board member that makes a motion must state his or her first and last name for the record. The votes will then be tallied by roll call. I will now take a roll call of the board members to confirm members who are present and their location. Again, I'm Ann Valentine, designee for Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, present in the room. Mark Pascarella, designee for State Public Finance Director Dan Hughey.
Present at IHCDA.
Ryan Locke, designee for Treasurer of State Kelly Mitchell.
Present in the room.
Board member J. June Midkiff.
Present in my dining room.
June Midkiff is remote. Board member Andy Place Sr.
Present.
And Andy is remote.
I'm remote, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Board member G. Michael Schockmeyer.
Present in beautiful Evansville, Indiana.
So remote. Thank you. Board member Tom McGowan
Present in the headquarters of IHCDA
on the 9th floor.
on the 9th.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from July 28th, 2022 board meeting. Board, any questions regarding the July 28th, 2022 minutes? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
Andy placed, motion for approval.
Mark Pascarella, second.
We have a motion and a second. We will now take a roll call. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Ryan Locke,
Aye.
J. June Midkiff,
Aye.
Andy Place Sr.,
Aye.
G. Michael Schockmeyer,
Yes.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. All right. Next, please welcome Samantha Spurgel, who will present the home buyer program.
Good morning. My name is Samantha Spurgel, the Director of Real Estate Strategic Initiatives at IHCDA. I'm here to present a request for the home buyer program. Back in May of this year, we received an application from the Southern Indiana Housing and Community Development Corporation, or SIHCDC, to construct 1 unit of housing for homeownership in Columbus, Indiana. This will be a 3-unit unit, which will be sold to a family at or below 80% varying median income. I also want to note that this is part of SIHCDC's Lincoln Central Neighborhood Homebuyer Program. So it would be the second funded under our home program and 3rd overall. And I also want to note that they are partnering with the Bartholomew Consolidated School Corporation Seaport Building Trades Program to help with the design as well as the construction of the unit. As part of this application, they also applied for certification under the home program for a community housing development organization of CHODO. And they were certified as a CHODO through this application process. That allows them to then separately apply for operating support, which they did qualify for. So with that, we'll pause and see if there's any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Quick question. So is this a very specific area that's described as part of the program?
Yes, this is a very specific part of the neighborhood.
Okay.
And they're targeting specific blocks that they are acquiring property directly through the city of Columbus to then construct the single family unit.
That's great. Thank you.
Any more questions? All right. Samantha, we're ready for your resolution.
Thank you. And I do have 2 resolutions. So I'll read them off separately. That's what the board.
Great. Yes, please. Thank you.
Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding home funding in the form of a grant in an amount not to exceed $88,301 to Southern Indiana Housing and Community Development Corporation as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion.
Tom McGowan moves for approval.
June
Motion to
Mitchell.
Go ahead, June.
Okay.
So
I
June second, thank you. You think I'd be better at this. June seconds that. Thank you. I'll take a roll call. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Ryan Locke.
Aye.
June Midkiff,
Aye.
Andy Place,
Aye.
Michael Schopmeyer,
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, motion passes unanimously. You have a second resolution, Samantha?
Yes. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. The result of the board approved funding home Choto operating supplement funding in the form of a grant in amount not to exceed $50,000 to the Southern Indiana Housing and Community Development Corporation as recommended by staff.
Okay, we have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Mark Pascarella.
Tom McGowan, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I will now take the roll. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Ryan Locke.
Aye.
June Midkiff,
Aye.
Andy Place Senior,
Aye.
Michael Schopmeyer,
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Samantha.
Samantha, if there's any chance I could get the address of this area, I'm gonna be there this weekend. I'd love to swing by.
I would
Thank you.
be happily give you that information. It should also be in your board packet as
Oh,
well.
the addresses
Specific-
are?
Yes, there's specific address.
Okay, you don't need to do it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Please welcome Peter Nelson, who will present the home recommendation.
Morning, board. I am here this morning to recommend program year 2021 home award recommendations for our home rental round. So Sam kind of covered what we can use home for, besides the construction and rehab of affordable housing or rental opportunities or the home buyer program. We can also do the operating funding for the organization, the Choto organizations. This funding I am recommending today is our program year 2021 rental round. It was a competitive rental only round. So applications were due in May of this year. On March 17th of this year, we hosted a webinar to discuss any changes in our policy from the last round, as well as provide technical assistance to potential applicants. There was some feedback back and forth on that, and they were able to ask and have their questions answered. And then we made any of the slides and information for anyone unable to attend available on our website. On May 9th, we have reviewed or received 12 rental applications for this round. These applications are reviewed basically under 3 requirements. We review for completeness, make sure they have everything that they need to meet all the requirements. We review for threshold, make sure they're meeting any minimum requirements that are set, whether that's by IHCDA or HUD, who oversees this program. And then we score the project. So the scoring criteria is how we set our priorities, and anyone that passes the threshold must meet a minimum score of 68 to be eligible to receive funding through this round in this program year. So during the process, any applicant is given, after our review, a threshold letter, scoring letter, so they can see kind of where they fall based on our review, and they have an opportunity to provide feedback on that. Maybe there was something we had missed during our review or looking at something differently, but they have that opportunity to provide that feedback, and we'll review and then finalize things from there. Prior to the applications being due, we did allow organizations to certify as Choto organizations, so community housing development organizations. The benefits to doing that for this home round, really there are 2 big benefits. Typically we have a cap of $1 million of home funding per project allowed. Being certified as a Choto allows a project to go up to 1.5 million per project. So they get additional funding. They're also allowed to get those Choto operating funding, which allow, that is funding for the operation of the organization. We did have 11 applicants apply for Choto certification. Upon review, we certified 9 applicants as Chotos. And 7 of those 9 ended up applying for funding among those 12 rental applications. So I do list some key performance indicators that we'll track. We do track the number of units total produced, as well as the number of special targeted units for any special populations. We also track the number of chodos in our state at any given time. And then we track the development benchmarks. There's certain benchmarks they need to meet for funding requirements, you know, where they're at. If they have their release of funds yet, have they started construction, how many funds have been drawn from this, et cetera. So those will all track up as well. So just quick summary of the applications received. We did receive, as I had mentioned, 12 applications. 10 of those are being recommended for funding. You know, being the home round, all 10 are being recommended for home funding. 8 of the 12 applications also requested development fund. We are recommending 7 of those applications. So that 7 of those we hope will receive development fund as well. And we did have 7 applicants request CHOTO operating funds. 6 of those are among the 10 being recommended for funding today as well. So the board, you can see in table A the list of all the projects and applicants that we are recommending today. I do want to run through that quickly for the benefit of anyone in the audience or maybe watching this online. So I will do that quickly, and I will say any operating supplement being awarded is in the amount of $50,000 per organization. So just real quickly, we are recommending Affordable Housing Corporation of Marion to receive $1.074 million in home and just over $400,000 in development fund for Pleasant Run Apartments. They are also receiving an operating supplement. Blue River Services receiving $888,000 in home and an operating supplement for Autumn Ridge duplexes. Community Housing Development Organization of Western Indiana receiving $200,000 in home rental and an operating supplement for Riverbend Rehab. Hand Inc. is receiving $880,000 in home, $100,000 in development fund, and an operating supplement for Plum Prairie. Housing Opportunities Inc. is receiving $1.5 million in home and an operating supplement for Union Street Apartments. La Costa of Goshen Inc. is receiving 2 awards, $436,000 in home and $97,000 in development fund for 409 Madison. And then they will receive $967,000 in home, $328,000 in development fund for 511 Division. New Hope Development Services, Inc. is also receiving 2 awards, identical amount of funding for each, but $1.5 million each in home, $226,000 each in development fund for Beechwood and Highland View. New Hope Development Services is also receiving a single $50,000 operating supplement. And then finally, Housing Partnerships, Inc., DDA Thrive Alliance is receiving just over $1.3 million in home and just over $389,000 in development fund for Huckle Flats. I will direct the board to table B. We do have the list of the 2 projects that we are not recommending for funding today. So McKinley Court, the project, during review, we had determined it had failed threshold, so they were notified that they would not be moving forward. And then Switzerland County Housing applied and did not meet our minimum score of 68. So those are the lists. I am happy to say any project that met our minimum score, past threshold, was funded. So that is exciting to see. And we were able to recommend the full amount of home development fund that each of these applicants are requesting in their initial application. So I will take a moment to pause here and answer any questions that the board may have before I get into resolutions.
Questions from the board?
Madam Chair, I have a question. Two-part question.
Yeah.
One, how many CHOTOs are in the state? And then just from a run rate standpoint, how has that number ebbed and flowed? So that's one. And then the second question relates to the applicants. You had 12 applicants. How does that relate to a run rate probably year-over-year basis? Is that a rise, decrease, staying flat? Just some marker points for the board, please.
Sure. So charter organizations, it's kind of a weird one to answer because really to be certified, you have to certify every time you receive
Right.
home funding.
Right.
And additionally, there's any kind of housing finance organization can certify CHODOs. So say an organization in Muncie, Indiana can certify a CHODO in Muncie, but they're not certified by IHCDA. So we can track who we have certified. I think right now we're kind of near the top of where we've historically been. Certainly we always want to see more organizations apply, more areas served. But I'd say right now, including these 7, or I guess 9 that were certified for this round, I know we have a few that certified for some other rounds that we have going on, and I know Sam has been certifying some new ones as well for the home buyer program. I'd say we're about 15 or so CHODOs currently certified. I think that is kind of, on the upper threshold of any given time.
Okay.
So
that's helpful.
yeah, we're always happy to see organizations continue to apply to become CHODOs or be recertified, and certainly always happy and excited to see new ones as well. As far as number of applicants, 12 is down a little bit from last year, but still kind of in the same ballpark. I want to say we had maybe 15 applications last year, and we ended up funding 11 or 12. So 12 is, kind of still in the realm of what's fairly normal, but it is down a little bit. And I will mention something else. I think part of that is cost. I think, if you kind of look at some of this table A and you see a higher cost per unit than you might have seen, I think everybody kind of expects that at this point, construction costs rising, labor costs.
Easy 20%, right?
But one thing that we did make sure to do this year is there is a HUD cost allocation tool. We did run a number of these through that tool to make sure they make sense. We have our specific subsidy limits that they can approach, a max number per unit, per bedroom type thing that they can request in home funding. But there's also that cost reasonableness tool that HUD has that we can run these through. And we're not really required to run a lot of these through that unless they do some certain things. I think one of the Dead-Eye projects did trigger that, but really we just wanted to make sure that they're all falling in that reasonableness cost. So
that's good.
I wanted to mention that as well.
Yeah, that was just, you answered the question just in terms of run rate and measurement of the program. So thank you.
Any other questions for Peter? Okay, I think we're ready for your resolution.
All right, and I do have 3, so I'll take them one at a time. Staff respectfully request the board approve the following resolutions. Resolve that the board approve home funding in the form of grants in an aggregate amount not to exceed $10,276,892 to the applicants set forth in Table A and Exhibit A as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion.
Tom McGowan moves for approval.
Mike Schottenheimer, second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll now take roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Brian Locke,
Aye.
June Midkiff,
Aye.
Andy Place Senior,
Aye.
Michael Schaffmeyer,
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Peter, we're ready for your next motion.
Resolve
Resolution.
the board approve development fund loans in an aggregate amount not to exceed $1,778,740 to the applicants set forth in Table A and Exhibit A as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Andy Place, approved.
June
Mark
Mid,
Pascal, second.
We have a motion and a second. I will now take roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Brian Locke,
Aye.
June Midkiff,
aye.
Andy Place Senior,
Aye.
Michael Schaffmeyer,
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. And now your third resolution.
Yes, resolved that the board approve the home Chodo operating supplement funding in the form of grants in an aggregate amount not to exceed $300,000 to the applicants set forth in Table A and Exhibit A as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Tom
June,
McGowan for approval.
Andy Place, second.
We have a motion and a second. I will now take roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Brian Locke,
Aye.
June Midkiff,
aye.
Andy Place Senior,
Aye.
Michael Shopmeyer,
aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Peter. Now you are still up here with us,
Yes,
presenting the Housing Trust Fund monthly update.
this one should be a little quicker. Yeah, so this is our monthly update for the Housing Trust Fund policy and delegated authority. So as a reminder to the board, in November of 2021, this board authorized IHCDA to take actions necessary to distribute additional allocations of Housing Trust Fund to projects that had already received an allocation of Housing Trust Fund that were negatively impacted by cost increase. We, each month, should we make an award of this funding, we come back and update the board. So at the March board meeting, this board approved an extension of the delegated authority, which was set to expire March 31st. I will note that this policy, as well as our other gap policies, our development fund policy, which we're not providing an update, we haven't made any awards in the past months. But our Tcap policy that Alan is on the agenda next for, these all expire at the end of September. So we are discussing internally kind of the best course of action that we want to take. And if we decide we want to extend those or whatever it may be, we will come back to the board next month and make that determination. Certainly we can provide any of that within our next update as well, our decision on those policies. But just wanted to make the board aware of that as well. So since the last board meeting, July's board meeting, we have approved 3 new projects for additional allocations of Housing Trust Fund. Those are Partners Preservation Project by Partners in Housing here in Indianapolis, Providence Place by Englewood CDC, also here in Indianapolis, and Mullen Flats by Mental Health America of West Central Indiana in Terre Haute. So those 3 bring our total number of projects funded through this gap policy to 4, totaling $1,894,000 in additional Housing Trust Fund funding. Since this is just an update, no action needed, but I am happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question. Mental Health America of West Central Indiana, what type of organization is that?
So they are, I guess they're a mental health organization, but they work with individuals who, I guess they're mostly a service organization.
Yeah, I was just curious about the new construction.
Yeah. So they are working with a partner.
Oh, okay.
So they are working with, and oh my goodness, it escapes me at the moment who they're actually working with. I can think of the individual's name, but not the organization, but they partnered together. So the mental health service organization did take the lead as the applicant and the grantee.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Is there an average, like what % increase this is, like 500,000 on how big of a project?
So I believe all of these have received the maximum award of $1 million initially with these projects. So it's just these amounts on top of that initial $1 million of Housing Trust Fund that they received initially.
Otherwise, that's a pretty big increase percentage-wise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any additional questions? Okay. Seeing as this is an update, there's no resolution for board to take action on. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Please welcome Alan Rakowski, who will present the monthly Tcap update.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm Alan Rakowski, Director of Real Estate Allocation. As mentioned, this is the monthly Tcap update through which delegated authority was granted to IHCDA to make awards to tax credit deals that were negatively impacted by cost increases. Since the last board meeting, we made 3 awards. Those projects are listed here in the table. Those projects are Englewood Homes in Indianapolis for $500,000. 34 East in Marion, $500,000. And Lakeshore Manor in East Chicago, $500,000. All 3 of these are new construction deals. This brings the total number of approvals to 19 since the policy was enacted last September, with a total of $8,842,411 in Tcap funding thus far. As Peter mentioned, we do plan to look at the policy and bring a recommendation to the board next month as this policy expires at the end of September. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Board, do you have questions for Alan?
Yeah, I just have one. So as they're coming in for the cost increases, is IHCDA the only one that they're coming back to for more money, or are they getting it from other sources?
Other sources as well. What we see is they oftentimes will go to look at other sources and have those as part of their update. That and not only they're asking for additional funding from us, but there could be other financing that they're bringing as part of it as well. So it's usually a combination of both us and another source.
Alan, these are all also deferring their developer fees too, right?
Correct, right. As part of the policy, they have to defer at least 40% of the developer fee, so that is also used as a source to that extent. So correct, they have to do that to qualify for the Tcap.
That is wise.
Okay. Since this is an update, there's no resolution before the board. Thank you for Alan for that update. And now you will also present the historic Gallatin Square recommendation.
Yes, thank you. So on November 21st of 2019, the IHCDA Board of Directors awarded Historic Gallatin Square LP just under 1.1 million in tax credits. This was part of the 2020 tax credit round. McKinley Development LLC was proposing the rehab of 3 historic buildings in Marion to create 42 units of affordable housing. In April of this year, IHCDA was notified that the surge in construction costs had created a funding gap for this project. So they initiated a conversation with us by applying for Tcap through the policy, but it also indicated that the gap was beyond what Tcap could do. The total gap was about $1 million, so they wanted to see what other resources we had. So we did indicate that they could apply for $500,000 through the development fund. And once they were made aware of that option, they did begin to put together a request. Also, since this was not, development fund is not covered under the gap policy, which I just discussed, that was approved by the board. That policy was in relation to applying for Tcap. IHCDA staff reviewed the QAP that this project was funded under, which is the 2020-2021 QAP. Under the terms of the QAP, developments that request additional resources after a tax credit allocation would be made subject to sanctions if the funding request is approved by the IHCDA Board of Directors. This applies to the applicant, owner, developer, and/or other applicable development team members at the discretion of IHCDA. IHCDA then ensured that the Historic Gallatin Square development team was aware of this QAP restriction prior to them submitting their application. So they acknowledged that and decided they wanted to proceed. So as part of our review process, we looked at the owners and developer. McKinley Development LLC and J. Higgs Development LLC serve as the owners of the project. And McKinley Development LLC also serves as a developer. IHCDA underwrote the development with a $500,000 development fund loan at 1.5% interest rate for 15 years, which is consistent with the terms for our development fund loans in tax credit deals. If approved, McKinley Development LLC and J. Higgs Development LLC will be ineligible to request IHCDA capital funding for a period of 1 year, commencing on the date of this memo. Furthermore, they will be assessed a $32,500 fine. That fee will be assessed to McKinley Development LLC and J. Higgs Development LLC, which will be payable at the completion of the 1-year suspension and a condition of being removed from the suspension list. So before I move to the resolution, I'll pause here. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Madam Chairman?
Yep.
Question on, obviously, we're talking about a lot of cost increases. Do you have, and to follow up, I think I know we're Mark's going on his line of questioning too. What kind of, when they're coming to you, what type of percentages are they showing you as increased costs? Because on sources and uses, you can move a lot of things around and establish a number that may not be 100% related to cost. So what what type of percentages are
I
they?
think it
coming?
ranges maybe between 10 to 15%, each one. is a
Well,
little
that's
different.
very reasonable.
So it's usually at an extent that $500,000, an additional $500,000 for this particular one fills that gap, but we see other costs, the total costs have increased, and oftentimes, as to answer to Mark's question earlier, they're finding other sources, they're deferring more developer fee. In this particular one, because the 500,000 Tcap was not enough, it really is a very last resort, because they are facing a sanction in QAP.
Yeah.
But I would say probably between 5 to 15% increase in cost we're seeing that can be, that come back to us.
Okay. One other just suggestion, and I'll just call it the real world, where you're not able to access all these funds. It may be something to contemplate that beyond just deferring development fees that the actual owner developer put in capital to. So it's not 100% gap coming to this organization, because in the real world, it doesn't work that way. So I do think that's a reasonable request. When your sources and uses get out of line, it's not just you guys. That it's kind of everyone's problem, if that makes sense. So the development fee, perfect sense. It's great you guys are doing that. But I do think at some point you should contemplate what are you doing? I just think that's a good governance, good practice.
I think that's true, but unfortunately, under the Section 42 tax credit program, owner equity can actually adversely impact the credits. Because it's a credit that's being claimed by through the IRS through a separate limited partnership.
So that equity would throw that out of the house.
The equity investor is 99.9% buying the credits.
Right.
So there's some challenges there. I'm not saying we can't do it, but
That's fair.
there are some.
It's just a philosophical
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah, we've had that conversation too. We gotta be mindful though that there are tax consequences.
That's-
related to that.
Yeah, my comment did not take that
Yeah.
into account.
Yeah.
Agreed.
The most common way we do it is that deferred developer fee, and that
Yeah.
they can do that. But that equity, that additional equity, because there is the limited partner who buy the credits, that gets a little bit tricky on the tax.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is the word deferred means you're still getting it.
Yeah, paid back if there's cash flow, and it's.
Yes.
Yeah, and I do like the deferred developer fee policy too, because that cash flow is contingent on the performance of the property. If the
True.
property doesn't perform,
You're not gonna get the cash flow to pull it out.
to pay the deferred.
I agree. No, that's good.
Yeah.
That was helpful. Good discussion. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Alan, we're ready for your resolution.
Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve a development fund loan to Historic Allison Square LP in an amount not to exceed $500,000 for the above reference request as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion.
Tom McGowan move to approve.
Mike Schotmeyer, second.
We have a motion and a second. I will now take roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Ryan Locke.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Michael Schoffmeyer.
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Alan.
Okay, thank you.
Please welcome Victoria Jennings, who will present the Housing First program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Victoria Jennings, and I'm a supportive housing analyst. This morning, I will provide a brief overview of the Indiana Housing First program before introducing this year's award recommendations to the board for approval. So in your packet, there is a presentation. So in 2017, the Indiana Housing First program was established by the State General Assembly to provide rental assistance and supportive services to households who are experiencing a housing crisis and at least one member has a serious and persistent mental illness, a chronic chemical addiction, or a serious and persistent mental illness with a co-occurring chronic chemical addiction. Next slide. This program uses the Housing First model. The Housing First model is an evidence-based approach to providing permanent housing that emphasizes client choice and does not impose preconditions or barriers to entry. Supportive services are tailored to the individual household's needs
and predicated on a harm reduction approach. Participants cannot be denied entry to the program for having too little income or active substance use or a history of substance use. Similarly, participants cannot be terminated from the program for failure to participate in or make progress in a service plan or failure to increase income. The focus of the Housing First model and delivery of services is continuous engagement over time to increase housing stability. Next slide. The program follows a critical time intervention approach to providing assistance. CTI is an evidence-based approach that has been demonstrated to be effective at providing housing assistance to individuals with serious mental illness. The goal of CTI is to support the participant during their time of transition from homelessness or an institutional setting into the community by helping them create support networks and relationships that will stay in place after the assistance ends and they exit the program. CTI case managers typically have small caseloads of approximately 15 clients who they serve for about 9 months. In practice, an individual may need a longer or shorter period of assistance, and the program does allow for that flexibility. Implementing this strategy allows for very individualized case management and can result in assistance being maximized. IHCDA offers in-depth CTI training opportunities to all grant recipients. Next slide. A minimum of 60% of funds must be used for tenant-based rental assistance and other housing costs, including security and utility deposits, limited amounts of rental and utility arrears and late fees, application fees, and moving fees. A maximum of 30% of the funds may be used for supportive service costs, which include employment assistance and job training, substance abuse and addiction treatment, educational and life skills assistance, treatment and management of mental and physical health problems, legal services, child care, case management and connecting to services, and other eligible costs. And 10% of the funds may be used for administrative costs. Participants do not have to be enrolled in services to receive rental assistance and vice versa. Next slide. In addition to that qualifying diagnosis, the household must be experiencing a housing crisis. This may include living on the street or a place not meant for human habitation, living in temporary housing such as emergency shelter, transitional housing, or with family and friends where they're expecting to have to vacate imminently. They might be facing an imminent court-ordered eviction. They might be exiting a residential treatment program within 30 days, or they might be living in an institutional setting and could live independently in the community if they're connected to community supports. While program recipients cannot screen households out for having too little or too much income initially, households must have an income at or below 60% of the county area median income to receive more than 12 months of assistance. Next slide. Households can receive a maximum of 24 months of assistance per housing crisis. They must have a valid lease with the property owner that is renewable and for a term of at least 12 months. The rent charged must be reasonable and the unit must pass a housing quality standards inspection. The household's contribution towards rent must be at least 30% of their income with the goal of increasing the household's contribution over time. Next slide. Since 2018, IHCDA has made 20 awards to 9 unique organizations totaling more than $4.5 million. As of Q1 of this year, this program has served more than 611 individuals and 364 households. Of these households, about 47% were literally homeless prior to their entry in the program, meaning that they were residing in emergency shelter, transitional housing, safe haven, or places not meant for human habitation. Another 20% entered from psychiatric hospitals or facilities, substance use treatment facilities, jail or prison, or halfway houses or residential projects. Other common locations prior to entry included staying in self-paid hotel or motels, or with friends or family members with that imminent need to vacate. Exit destinations have been very positive for this program. So the majority of program participants, once they exit, are living in a rental with no subsidy, with the lease in their name when they exit. Other permanent destinations include rentals with another type of subsidy or staying or living with family or friends permanently in the community. Can I answer any questions about the program before I present IHCDA's funding recommendations?
Go
I'm
ahead.
sure you're shocked, Madam Chair, but, so first of all, I just want to say this program is unbelievable. And its
Right.
importance can't be measured. So the question I have, and I think it's to JQ, is, so 611 individuals, have been served. How do we take such an incredible program and find ways to expand it? We'll talk more about this at our other meeting, but it's so powerful, it's so important, it works. Is there a way to, and I know everything's easier said than done, by the way, trust me, I get that, but what are ways to expand this and reach more people with this incredible program is the question.
Yeah, I think there's two. Number one, funding. We're only limited to $1 million annually on the state budget for this program. So increasing funding would be one. And then more outreach, and great work with Victoria on the trainings, but building capacity within the network of not-for-profits that administer rental assistance programs and services. There needs to be more capacity across our state. There are pockets where we have really good housing providers that also include that services, which is what we see here.
Yeah.
There are also pockets where there is no service and there is no housing provider.
Right.
So how do we continue to build that infrastructure?
Just that infrastructure.
So I think there's a couple different things we have to talk about. We have to talk about more money, and then we have to talk about capacity building with the organizations. What we do see this year, I think this is one of the first years where we have more applications than we have funding.
Which is good and bad.
It is good and bad.
Yeah.
One of the groups here has, I think both of these, have received an award in the past.
Right.
And have done great work. And so if we had more money, we could have probably carried these services out.
Yeah,
But we don't see new organizations, even though this is still fairly a new program, 2018, right?
Yeah.
So we haven't really seen new organizations come in because we haven't really done the outreach. We just don't have the additional money to support a lot of new organizations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Madam Chair, we're on the governor's task force on homelessness, and this has a little implication into that in a roundabout way as it relates to funding and long-term support. So that I do think this is incredibly important to make sure we have adequate funding and we're able to expand that beyond 611 people, because there's tremendous need out there.
One of the nice things that I really see about the program is the diversity in the households that is being served.
Good.
So everything from women who are pregnant and have housing insecurity and at risk of potentially, losing custody of their little one, to have that support to our veterans. So, it covers the entire gamut.
So important.
So the diversity that you see in the demographics is really, really important too as well. You see that with this program.
Great. Awesome program.
Is there any limit as well in the availability of the housing, or is it mostly having those entities available to match up the need?
Yeah,
Human need to that
several
available.
of these organizations are home recipients and have home programs. And so, that creation of those home units are really, really important to create that affordability. Some of them really, because they are at the grassroots level, have good relationships with local mom and pop landlords as well that they work with.
Okay.
So
that was very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Any additional questions from the board? Okay, we can have a resolution?
Well, I will present our funding recommendations
please,
for the
please,
Indiana
please,
Housing
yes.
First program. So
Sorry.
IHCDA released an updated policy manual and request for qualifications on June 7th. Responses to the RFQ were due on July 25th, and IHCDA received 6 responses requesting an aggregate award in the amount of $1,732,458.26. Members of an IHCDA selection committee reviewed all responses and determined the funding recommendation based on the scoring system described in the RFQ. The selection committee has recommended to fund Housing Opportunities and HVAF of Indiana at their full request because these applications received the highest scores. Because there were not sufficient remaining funds to grant the remaining requests in full, the selection committee decided their award recommendation for LTHC Homeless Services and YWCA of Indiana by funding each at 63% of their request. Both of these organizations are first-time applicants, and furthermore, Northeast Indiana and the Tippecanoe County area will be new service areas for the program. Aurora Inc. and Volunteers of America, Ohio, and Indiana have not been recommended for funding due to lack of funding in their scoring position. Both organizations are current Housing First Award recipients. This will not result in an immediate lack of coverage in the described county areas. Volunteers of America has requested to extend their current award into Q1 of 2023, and Aurora Inc. has a sizable balance on their current award that is likely to sustain their program until the next award cycle. IHCDA will offer to meet with both organizations to provide feedback on their applications to ensure competitiveness for the next RFQ. Staff recommends that the board approve an award of Indiana Housing First program funding in the amount of $950,000 to the 4 organizations in Table A. Are there any questions?
Okay, no questions? We've received your resolution. Do I have a motion?
Tom McGowan moves for approval.
Mark Pascarella, second.
Okay, board, we have a motion and a second. I will now take the roll. Mark Pascarella?
Aye.
Ryan Locke?
Aye.
June Midkiff?
Aye.
Andy Place?
Aye.
Michael Schockmeyer?
Aye.
Tom McGowan?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Madam Chair, do you mind if I just make a quick statement?
Yes.
As it relates to this whole thing? A lot of capital comes out of this organization. I mean, a lot of money comes through these doors, and you guys all doing a tremendous job, all these programs, and everyone's doing a tremendous job. I think as a state that the underfunding of this for the most needy of our citizens in the state, we need to figure this out on a macro level, that we got to focus on the neediest as well. And I just hate to hear when we don't have adequate funding for these people that everyone we talk about, these are the people that need us the most. So I just wanted to make that statement.
Agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. All right. Next, please welcome Greg Glassley, who will now present the LIHEAP allocation table.
Good morning. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. So I'm Greg Glassley, the Director of Energy and Utility Programs here. I've got 2 memos. They're both very related. The first one is the LIHEAP allocation table. So currently, the board approved allocation table is using 2010 census data. So in late 2020 census data was updated. So we'd like to update the allocation table to utilize the most recent census data. I think that will better allow us to reflect the need in all counties. That's the main part. The other part is that right now there's a 3% kind of carve out for technology. We propose putting that back to the overall admin kind of pool, so that the technology updates should be using the admin line anyway, absent a brand new data system or data implementation system. So that's the crux of this one. So I'll pause there for any questions.
Any questions for Greg? Okay, I think we're ready for your resolution.
Okay. Staff respectfully requests the board pass the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve the use of the new LIHEAP allocation table as recommended by staff.
All right, we have a resolution. Do I have a motion?
Andy Place, motion for approval.
June Midkick, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I'll now take the roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Ryan Locke,
Aye.
June Midkiff,
Aye.
Andy Place,
Aye.
Michael Schockmeyer,
Aye.
Tom McGowan,
Aye.
Ann Valentine. Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now your item number 2 for you, the weatherization allocation table.
Sure, it's very similar. This is just for the weatherization allocation table, just the part, so the LIHEAP funding, where 8, 9, 10% of that goes to the weatherization assistance program. So this again is updating the allocation table to use the most recent census data that better reflects kind of where every county is from a poverty standpoint, elderly standpoint. So formula stays the same as it did with the LIHEAP. It's just updating it. And that's this one. So I'll pause there for any questions.
Board, do we have any questions for Greg? Okay, we're ready for your resolution.
Staff respectfully request the board pass the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve the use of the new LIHEAP weatherization allocation table as recommended by staff.
All right, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion.
Andy Place, motion for approval.
Tom
Mike,
McGowan, second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll take the roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Ryan Lock.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Michael Schaffmeyer.
aye,
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, please welcome Tina Darling, who will present the 2023 Csvg allocation table.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As noted, my name is Tina Darling. I am the Community Programs Manager for the Community Csvg. And I'm here to present the request for approval for the 2023 Csvg reallocation table, allocation table, sorry. Traditionally, Indiana receives approximately $10.5 million annually for Csvg. In 2022, we received $10.8 million. And with the anticipated congressional continuing resolution this year, we expect to receive that same amount again in 2023. The 2023 allocations being requested are based on two main criteria, similar to what you heard from Greg. We received the 2020 decennial census data, which more accurately reflects the need in each county. And I would point you towards the table A in the memo, which gives the percent of state poverty at or below 125% on a county by county basis. And then we also attached a map that shows our Csvg service areas. Excuse me. Secondly, we had a request by the Csvg committee of the Indiana Community Action Association asking us to ensure that no subgrantee would receive less than $200,000 per year. To make this happen, and to ensure that no one agency was negatively impacted too greatly, our process was modeled after the weatherization formula that adjusts the base award for certain agencies. So for Csvg, following this model allowed two agencies to have their base increased so that they could reach that $200,000 floor. Also, the board of directors for the Indiana Community Action Association has reviewed this allocation table, and no concerns have been shared with us. So by far, it was the 2020 census data that had the greatest impact on the upcoming allocation table. And with that, I'm happy to take any of your questions. Do you have any questions for Tina? Hearing none, we'll entertain your resolution. Thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve the use of the new Csvg allocation table for the annual allocation of Csvg funds to community action agencies beginning in program year 2023 as recommended by staff. Board, we have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion.
Andy Place, motion for approval.
Second, June Midkiff.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I will take the roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Ryan Lock.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Michael Schaffmeyer.
aye,
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Tina. Next, please welcome Rachel Sample, who will present the HOPWA recommendation. I wasn't going to try and make that a word, but maybe you will.
It's okay, I will in a minute. Good morning. As she said, my name is Rachel Sample. I'm the Community Services Grants Manager at IHCDA. I'm here today with a couple of items. First on the docket is our request for the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, or HOPWA program. HOPWA is a HUD-funded program for individuals who are low income living with HIV or AIDS. And this year, IHCDA received $1,940,337. This is a 12% increase from last year's allocation. This increase is due to HUD's modernization of HOPWA formula, and the program can pay for short-term rent, mortgage assistance, permanent housing placement services, and administration. IHCDA is going to retain $58,210 to cover administrative expenses and has $1,882,127 to allocate to partners. Our team announced the funding opportunity and applications in June. We notified applicants of our increase in funding available, but we actually did not receive requests for the full amount that was available to them. In communication with our partners, folks had indicated that essentially they did not feel confident in their capacity to spend additional dollars and would prefer to apply for more dollars after they had spent what they had requested. So the amount we're actually requesting today for allocation is $1,681,524 and leaves a balance of $200,593 for us to allocate during a future reallocation cycle. We will complete that cycle in accordance with the approved IHCDA reallocation policy, and HOPWA funds must be spent within 3 years of the receipt of their award. Eligible applicants need to be a designated care coordination site with the Indiana State Department of Health, and those funding allocations were determined this year based on the funding available, dollars requested, previous program outcomes, the number of households served, and epidemiology data from the State Department of Health. A list of the totals and the allocations are in your memo. And I just wanted to note that there are several counties listed in the memo that are not receiving HOPWA fundings through our jurisdiction. This doesn't mean that eligible individuals residing in those counties can't receive HOPWA services from our partners, but it does mean that we at IHCDA do not fund these partners directly, and that those partners receive an allocation or could receive an allocation through other jurisdictions. Does anyone have any questions before I present the resolution?
Just one question. Is the reason that we have that left over, that they can't spend it, is it capacity by the organization, or is it not as many individuals needing?
It is capacity is what they're saying right now.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the board?
So where are these other groups getting their funding then if they're not, you said other jurisdictions, where are
Yeah,
they
so
getting it?
the map there that's in the memo, particularly around Kentucky and the Cincinnati area, there are jurisdictions for HOPWA that cover those counties in the Louisville and Cincinnati area.
Interesting.
Other questions?
And BART funding goes into any of our neighboring states, doesn't it?
Not that I know of. I'm new enough to some.
That's what they do with those two areas, in Louisville and Cincinnati, they actually come over into Indiana.
Oh,
That's Kentucky's HOPWA program, right?
Huh.
Yeah. So
interesting.
I didn't know, I don't think any of our.
I don't believe so.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay, we're ready for your resolution.
Okay. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve awarding an aggregate amount of HOPWA funds in an amount not to exceed $1,681,534 to applicants as set forth in Table A for 2022-23 program year as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mark Pascarella, second.
We have a motion and a second. I will take roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Ryan Locke.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Michael Schottmeyer.
Aye, Madam Chairman, I'm going to have to depart. I've got a meeting at 10 o'clock, so I'll be dropping off.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thank you.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Oh, you're still here.
Now I'm still here.
Thank you. Rachel, you will also present the ESG award recommendation.
Yes, ESG for Emergency Solutions Grant. I'm here today to also share with you another recommendation for funding under Emergency Solutions Grant. This HUD program is for individuals and families who are experiencing homelessness or at imminent risk of homelessness.
and IHCDA received $3,955,447 this year. That can be allocated to street outreach, shelter or day shelter, rapid rehousing, which is short-term or medium-term rental assistance, homeless prevention activities, and administrative operations. The selection process for projects under this program are outlined in IHCDA's consolidation plan, which is approved by HUD. And this year we released our request for proposals in June and scored and reviewed applications in July. We are excited to share that we did see an increase in interest in ESG funding this year. We had 59 shelter applicants, 13 street outreach applicants, and 15% rapid rehousing and homeless prevention applicants, which is about a 20% increase overall.
Wow.
Yeah. Additionally, we do have 6 shelter applicants who are receiving smaller rapid rehousing funding awards to help them assist families and individuals in their shelters rapidly exit from shelter to permanent housing program, permanent housing with limited assistance. ESG does set funding caps for current applicants and new projects. This allows us to allocate funding across the state to eligible entities and programs using the formula as part of our allocation plan. This year, just to share with you, like every year, projects do not generally receive the full amount that they request. But because we had more dollars requested, we saw an additional decrease in the amount of, decrease in the amount most projects received. On average, shelter sub-recipients received 68% of their requested amount, outreach received 30% of the requested amount, and our rapid rehousing homeless prevention applicants received 59% of their requested amounts. I won't read for you all of the exhibits there because they're quite lengthy and the number of folks we are funding for this program, but all the allocations for the program are outlined in the attached exhibits A, B, and C, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Tom?
It sounds like on my same line of questioning that this program with this growth and what we're seeing in the state across the country is one that it seems like it could use some additional funding as well. Is that a fair request or a fair statement? Sorry.
I would say also to that statement, number one, we have received additional money over the last year. The other thing is though, our housing service providers are doing a better job with coordinated entry,
right, and
continuum of care. Where I think that we have seen definitely our organizations have learned a lot during the pandemic and are doing a much better job today. I think with rapid rehousing, because we had an influx of money with rapid rehousing, right, and to get those dollars out through the coronavirus relief act. So that those are doing great. I think they're doing great work. And I think the capacity of our organizations have really, that's what you're seeing reflect. Is the demand there? In need, yes. Whereas the need was there in 2018.
This is a more efficient model now.
It is.
These groups. That's great.
Are doing a much better job of screening outreach. The outreach piece has really come along as well, that we also are funding. So I think it all kind of goes hand in hand.
It does. That's encouraging, that 20%. That's great.
Additional questions? Mark?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The 68-30 versus 59%, is it the rationale for that?
Essentially the formula is a formulaic process, so we prioritize certain eligible program activities, and so our goal is to allocate more dollars to shelter and rapid rehousing and outreach. As far as the changes in the amounts from last year versus this year and the percent people were receiving, it really was just a matter of, we did see an increase, but it wasn't comparative to the increase that we saw in requests for funding. So though we had more applicants, which is great, we're serving new parts of the state with these dollars, we didn't see a commensurate bump from HUD in the total dollars.
Okay.
Okay. I think you have 3 resolutions. We'll go through them one by one, if you would, please.
So first, staff respectfully request that the board approve the first resolution. Resolve that the board approve awarding an allocation in the 22-23 program year for emergency solutions grant funds in an aggregate amount not to exceed $2,055,273 for the shelter program to organizations set forth in Exhibit A as recommended by staff.
Okay, we have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Tom McGowan moves for approval.
Andy Place second.
We have a motion and a second. I will take the roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Ryan Locke.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place,
Aye.
Tom McGowan,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next resolution.
Yes, thank you. Resolved that the board approve awarding an allocation 22-23 program year for emergency solutions grant funds in an aggregate amount not to exceed $140,000 for outreach to organizations set forth in Exhibit B as recommended by staff.
All right, we have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion.
June
Motion
Midkiff,
to-
move to approve.
Andy Place second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. I will take roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Brian Luck.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, last one. Resolved that the board approve awarding an allocation in the 22-23 program year emergency solutions grant funds in an aggregate amount not to exceed $1,463,515 for rapid rehousing homeless prevention to organizations set forth in Exhibit C as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Tom McGowan moves for approval.
Mark Pascal, second.
We have a motion and a second. I will take the roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Brian Locke.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Rachel. Next up, Executive Director Jake Sipe, who will provide an executive update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On July 25th, we received applications for the 9% tax credit round. And we'll be making a recommendation to the board at the November 17th board meeting for those credits. This year, we had a significantly smaller amount of applications for the tax credits. We had 33 applications. And as you were asking, Tom, some of those questions about, what does the trend look like? I did go back and look at a couple of years. So last year, we had 38 applications that requested 41 million. This year was 37 million, 33. In 2019, we had 43 applications requesting 44 million. And then in 2018, we had 51 applications requesting 51 million. So we do have a significant drop off this year from our developers to request credits. I think there's a lot of factors involved in that.
I did too.
But probably just start naming them off. What they
Yeah,
are.
there's
But
factors.
I won't go through that, but so we do have 33 applications on the good side. We'll probably higher percentage of applications will get funded this year than probably ever have. So there's that to it. As long as those are good quality applications that are having positive impact in our community, whether it be with new construction or preservation of existing affordable housing. So, but plan to make those awards in November. We did launch an updated version of My Community, My Vision. I don't know if you remember this, but before the pandemic, for a few years, we had a program called My Community, My Vision, where we would engage high school students from usually about 5 high schools to develop a plan and to present their vision for their community, and then to also take on a placemaking project. So we brought that back, and this year we have a partnership with the Indiana Philanthropy Alliance Youth Council, and then also with the Association of Indiana Municipalities. They also have a youth council with the mayors. So we partner with both organizations to really create an opportunity for the youth that are participating in youth councils across our state to take on placemaking activities that will improve the quality of place in their communities, because obviously we want our youth to stay in Indiana and contribute to our state. So Great Places is a small way that we're trying to contribute to that. So we'll be identifying 5 schools here later this fall to participate in next year's program. So we're real excited, and they'll be able to take on, not only will they get the training, but they actually will campaign in terms of a fundraiser to raise money to actually take on a project. And IHCDA will match what they raise in terms of what their project might be, whether it be a mural. I think we've had some work with improving a local park, improving accessibility to the downtown, a wide variety for their community that will make it a better place. That's cool. Yeah. Last thing I was just going to mention, the September board meeting is at the same time as the Indiana Housing Conference on September 22nd. The board meeting, so it will be at the Indianapolis Marriott downtown at 10 a.m. That's 3500 West Maryland Street. And so the other thing is, I know Mike's dropped off in June, and Andy, if you can make it, it'd be great. Dave Stewart will make sure that you can park in the West Parking garage, and they will validate your ticket for you. So we'll have that all taken care of. Immediately following the board meeting is the Lieutenant Governor's Excellence in Affordable Housing Awards. So the luncheon will start right after the board meeting. So hopefully if you have time, you can stick around and attend the luncheon and see the awards that we're going to be making for the Resident of the Year, and then the 4 developments that are being that will receive an award for their impact that they're having across our state. So with that, just a reminder, that's September 22nd at the Indianapolis Marriott at 10 a.m. So we won't be here. So Dave will take care of the parking for everyone.
We can also cover Mike and Andy's hotel too.
Okay.
I do have just a general question based on discussion today. The main KPI is how many humans are struggling with housing. We don't really, it's hard to track, right? But with all these programs, they're doing all this good and funding being the issue, how do you feel like we're doing on that front? I mean, it's a weird time. The market is different. The housing prices are up. We're hitting kind of weird times in the economy. Do you think we're set up to be that support to help people find housing, or is it a?
Yeah, it's a challenge when you think about trying to use. So earlier this year, we launched the Indiana Housing Dashboard, and it does bring a central location for a lot of the housing data that's out there, whether it be American Community Surveys or the Builders Association with building permits. There's a lot of data, and so we did put it in one central location. We are currently working on a second version of that will, right now it's at a county level. But some of that data is old. I mean, it doesn't get updated every year. So some of the data is 2020, 2021. So it's really not reflective of the current economic environment that we're in or the housing need that we're in as well. So things like the point in time count that the team puts together every year to look and go out physically across our state to count homeless populations or those that are at risk of homelessness. Looking at the data that we have in terms of how many people we're serving, whether it be Housing First or ESG. So those do give us some snapshot as to comparables and looking at over a year. So how we're doing, I think there's opportunities for us to improve on a couple different levels. We've got to have a better capacity of networks of not-for-profits across our state. The HOPWA funds is a great example. We weren't able to allocate all the funds. We just didn't have enough applications for the HOPWA program. And so we have to be more outreach, we have to have more capacity trainings across our state to be more intentional as to identifying where those gaps are. And then we have some opportunities to, we had the home round where we only denied 2 applications. In some way that's good because we don't have to have so many difficult conversations with not-for-profits. But on the other hand, we probably should have more applications. We do know that we have counties that haven't received a home award for several years. And it's because there's not a not-for-profit that's providing housing. There's no CHODO. And so having some of those conversations with our local leaders about the opportunities to create a not-for-profit that's dedicated to housing development, something that, it's always been a challenge for us, and it will be. So I would say there are huge gaps in our state in terms of geographic location that offset the great work that we're doing because there's just, we just don't have the capacity.
Your hands get tied without those networks.
Yeah.
Well, those things they're easier to build when times are good, and they're needed when times are bad. If there is a downturn, there are things coming our way. All the work you guys are doing, it's phenomenal. It's wonderful to see. It's great to hear these programs, see what they're doing. Time to get more effort and energy out there. Any way we can be supporting, any way we as a society can do that, it matters. We talk about the real world and ways to kind of protect ourselves there. If they're not meeting it, if we're getting less applicants on tax credits because that market's not meeting it, it makes the work contingent on us to put these things into action and operation so that people aren't having housing crisis, that humans are not worrying about next meals, next place to live, they're surviving and thriving. So.
And I will say this though too, we're talking about our most vulnerable population, but our first-time home buyers, our products are through the roof. I mean, we're still at 17% higher volume than we were last year, year to date, and that was a record year for us last year.
That's impressive.
We continue to outperform ourselves on the home buyer products that we're offering right now. Our team's doing great work. They're doing a really great work of getting out and working with one-on-one meetings with realtors and lenders. But our products still continue to be very attractive that we have available. And we've been able to do that even through rising interest rates.
And costs. Yeah.
And costs, yeah. But we'll hear more about that as we get to the end of the year. We can share more about where we end up with the single family production.
Keep it all up.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in this organization. It's pretty amazing.
Great. Is there any other business to come before the board? Okay, hearing no other business, the meeting is adjourned at 11:15. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.